Hey guys. This is part 7 of What If Naruto Faked His Death. Hit like and subscribe if you like this one, and also please check the author in the description. Let's start. Chapter 25, The Competition. Are you sure that you're alright? Shinobi-chan can be quite brutal when she's sparring, Naruto asked. He and Karen were slowly heading back towards the village, they both rather battered from their training, although neither showed it by looking at them. The red-headed Kunoichi nodded her head. I'm fine. Actually, the truth is, I think I needed that beating. She chuckled lightly. I never knew how far I was behind everyone. Blindly following Sasuke and Orochimaru while never really understanding just how far out of my league our opponents really were. Karen finished with a sigh. Oh well, you have all the time in the world now to get stronger. So how did you do in Shinobi-chan's test? Naruto asked tentatively. Karen let out a disappointed sigh and hung her head. Not well. In almost all areas I am no more advanced than an average genin. Only my tracking and sensor abilities gave me the small boost I needed to avoid some of that crazy old toad's attacks, she admitted. Don't feel too bad. I mean, the first time I sparred with Shinobi-chan she destroyed me. Honestly, I was pathetic, just running in blind using my clones haphazardly. That was less than a year ago. Naruto laughed, somewhat embarrassed at how poor he was even up to the time he had been sent to learn Sage Mode from the Toads. Karen sighed, feeling a little better. Still, she knew that there was a difference. Naruto may have been beaten by Shima, but at the time he had far more battle experience, and had at least some training in taijutsu. I guess that helps. At the very least I know it's not too late for me. You will be able to get up to speed in no time at all, although you may want to avoid fighting the Toad Elders again. Maybe you should summon one of the snow leopards to help your training? Most summons have their own unique style of taijutsu and ninjutsu. They usually have to be earned though, Naruto said in deep thought. He had been accepted to be trained by Fukusaku and Shima because Jiraiya chose him as his successor. He wasn't sure how other summons decided who was worthy of training. The only other summon clan jutsu I can remember was Anko's Hibi-style taijutsu, but she was Orochimaru team's apprentice. He probably taught her. The village was buzzing when the pair emerged from the edges of the forest. The children were all loudly laughing, a far cry from the events of the day before. The vast majority of the townsfolk had converged on the center where the large fire had been the previous night. What do you think's going on? Karen asked. Naruto shrugged his shoulders. Your guess is as good as mine. But we won't find out by just standing here and talking about it. Let's go find out. Naruto cheered merrily and took off at a light jog, hopeful to see what all the fuss was about. Cammy, he acts just like a child at times. Whatever it is, it can't be that interesting, she thought, shaking her head in amusement. Despite her attempt to detach herself from the situation, she couldn't help but sigh and run off after the blonde. It turns out that Naruto's enthusiastic attitude was infectious. The blonde came to a stop at the back of a crowd, still unable to see the source of the commotion. This isn't working. I need to get up higher to have a better look, he thought, and quickly looked around for the closest building overlooking the town center. That will do, he whispered to himself before heading towards a small single-level wooden home that was just as run down as the rest of the village. It turned out that the villagers were gathered around 4 people Naruto had not seen in the village before. The most noticeable was a tall older who looked to be in his mid to late 50s. He had short light brown hair that was graying at the edges and a short goatee to match. He, like the other 3 arrivals, all had large bows running across their backs. So what is it? Naruto turned his neck as Karen made her presence known. I'm not sure yet, but nobody looks worried, so it doesn't look like they are a threat. The blonde answered, a little relieved. 2 rescue missions in as many days would be a bit much even for him. His attention turned back to the next member of the group, a man that Naruto guessed was around Kakashi's age. The most noticeable features he had were his jet black shoulder-length hair and a large scar that ran down his right arm. It had the unmistakable signs of a bite mark, meaning that whatever had bitten him had been large. Didn't Cho say something last night about hunters that gather food for the village? Maybe this is them? Karen suggested. Oh yeah, that would explain why everyone came to see them. They want to get their fair share. Naruto agreed. Well, you can't really blame them. Living in poverty like this, it's probably rare that they get a decent meal. Karen sighed, a little sympathetic. She knew what it was like to only just get enough food to survive from her time spent with Orochimaru. Well, we don't need to take any of it from them, we can get our own, Naruto said, his attention finally turning to the last 2 members of the hunting party. A young woman perhaps a year or maybe two older than Naruto, and a small boy, both had the same straight brown hair and blue eyes that instantly tagged them as siblings. "Ah, it's good to be back," the oldest member of the group said loudly, stopping to take in the scenery. "Things look different," he said as his eyes stopped on the frame of the house that Naruto had built that morning. He was instantly suspicious. Things very rarely changed in the small village, and never so much as the construction of a new building. "Cho, what's going on here? Who built that?" the younger man asked loudly so that wherever the afro-haired man was in the crowd he would hear. "That would be our two newest members of the village. They are rather unique," Cho replied, moving to the front of the crowd. "New members? Where did they get sent here from? I thought this village was classified as being full in the inner circles," the eldest member of the group of hunters asked. Cho paused for a moment, contemplating if he should tell the truth or lie. "They were not sent here from anywhere. The truth is, they came from the other side of the southern mountains," he eventually admitted. "What? That's not possible," the old man replied in shock. "I can assure you it's the truth. They are both rather unique. I think they will be able to help this village. We wouldn't have let them stay otherwise," Cho said firmly. "Even if I believe you, it's still two more mouths to feed. Then there's the mercenaries to think about. When they see a brand new building in the village, they will raise the amount they want us to pay," the younger man reasoned. "We can worry about that when the time comes, but even then I am more than confident that those money-hungry mercenaries will be quiet in this area for a while," Cho replied. "What are you getting at, Cho?" the black-haired man asked. "It means our new arrivals arrived the same day as one of the mercenaries' tax collection days, and they followed them back to their hideout and forced them to disband," Cho said, still barely believing the scene he had witnessed for himself. "Do you know how dangerous that is? If the higher-ups find out it was us, we could be in some serious trouble," the elderly man said urgently. "Don't worry, they have no idea that we are living here. Besides, if anyone else comes, I will just have to chase them off again." Naruto yelled from the rooftop, announcing his presence. "So you two must be the so-called new additions to the village. What's your name, boy?" the old man asked loudly. Naruto and Karen jumped off the roof and landed effortlessly in the center of the clearing. "I'm Naruto Uzumaki, and this is Karen," the blonde said, holding his hand out in a friendly greeting. "Isho Wakana," the elderly man said, accepting the handshake tentatively. He had been taken back at seeing the two young shinobi leap such a distance with ease and end up unharmed. "Nice to meet you," Karen said politely. "So tell me, what did you do to the mercenaries?" "Oh, and I'm Tenji, by the way," the younger man said, not wanting to sound pushy or rude. "I just made them realize that they were in the wrong line of work," Naruto answered. "Most of them do not always have a choice. But in any case, you have done us a great service," Tenji replied. It was nothing really. I couldn't just sit by and watch them take advantage of this village," Naruto said honestly. "What a short-sighted fool," the young woman said, a hint of bitterness in her voice. "What do you mean?" Naruto asked, a little shocked at the overall harshness in the older teen's voice. "Just because you were able to knock off some small fry, doesn't mean the job is done. They will be back, and this whole area will suffer for it. People like those mercenaries don't just give up, you know," the woman lectured. "Then what? Do you suggest that everyone just sit back and let them take advantage of you for the rest of your life?" Naruto asked stiffly. "It's better than the alternative. We might not live in luxury, but at least we're alive. If they ever find out it was us, then this village is finished. They will kill us and burn this place to the ground to set an example to anyone else that would defy them," she answered angrily. Naruto stiffened up and glared back at the older teen. "No, they won't, because I will make sure this place is safe. You are one person. Even if by some miracle you are able to fend off the mercenaries, that just means that the royal family will send members of military here, then we will have no choice but to flee," the young woman scoffed in reply. Naruto opened his mouth to respond, but Karen placed a hand on his shoulder to stop him. "That's enough, Naruto-kun. We're sorry. We acted without thinking. It is just difficult for us seeing people getting pushed around, like the people of this village were. So we apologize." Sorry, I don't know your name." "It's Ray. At least one of you have some sense. I hope you can keep your idiot partner in line. As I said, this may not be the best place to live, but things can still get a lot worse. We live like this, because it is how things are. Now, if you will excuse me, I have been out of the village for almost a week, so I would like some rest," the elder teen said sadly before walking off, her brother following close behind. "She's the foolish one, giving up on making her life better," Naruto said bitterly. "You might be right, but was there any need to be so aggressive about it?" Karen asked. "Maybe not, but she has clearly stopped believing that the world can change. She wants something to believe in again. If there is something that you want, something that can make you happy, then you can't simply give up on it. All that means is that you have to fight harder for it. Believe that with enough hard work things can change, Naruto said firmly. You really believe that? Karen asked. Yeah, if it is a choice, why not go for the one that will make you happier? Ray was angry, but only because things have been so bad for so long. The blonde answered. If that's the case, then why did you fake your death and flee the elemental nations? Wouldn't you have been happier to stay in Konoha and be seen as the hero of the war? Karen asked honestly. Naruto paused and thought. She had a point. He would have been happy staying behind in Konoha. He could have fulfilled his dream, to be Hokage, and lived a relatively easy life as a hero to not one but all the major nations. It was my sacrifice. I traded my happiness for that of the elemental nations. They couldn't find peace while I was still around. The great Toad Sage showed me that. I can still be happy though. If I can find a decent life for myself here, then I will take it. I'll fight for it if I have to. Naruto admitted. You are an interesting one, Naruto Uzumaki. I for one hope you succeed in making this place a home, but be careful. Others have had similar dreams out here in the outskirt districts, and each time the people have rebelled, only to be crushed by the military. It is not a pretty sight when it has happened. The elderly man, Isho said, having overheard most of the conversation, while handing food out to the villagers. Don't worry, I don't intend for things to end that way. There has to be a balance that can be found somewhere, without the need to rebel. Naruto replied, after declining the offer of a percentage of the hunting party's catch. Naruto and Karen agreed to help distribute the rest to the remaining villagers to help feel like members of the community. The group slowly dispersed as they collected their meat, leaving only a few of the younger villagers behind. Among those that stayed behind were a group of teens, including Mika, who took advantage of the situation to approach Karen. That was rather tense. I wouldn't give Ray too much thought if I was you. She doesn't really get on very well with anyone. The sandy-haired blonde said with a small chuckle. She had a point though. We acted without even thinking yesterday. Naruto-kun can be quick to act, and he doesn't always think things through. Karen said in response. Well, he does seem like someone who would fly off the handle. Are you sure it's safe to keep him around? It's our entire village that is at sake. Mika questioned seriously. I don't really know how to answer that. It is possible that having Naruto around isn't all that safe. In the past he has attracted trouble. But in truth I never feel safer than when he's around. He will do anything for his friends, and after a while you just begin to believe that he can do anything. Karen answered truthfully. Well, it's not my decision anyway. Oh, on another note, I wanted to ask you something. A bunch of us, Mika pointed to a small group of teens around their age, mostly boys. Well, we are going to a little get-together tonight. Just some friends and some drinks. We can't get the expensive stuff they get in the inner circles, but Shia, one of the locals, makes some pretty strong stuff. Do you want to come too? Think of it as a little get-together to get to know some of the villagers better. Sure, it sounds like it could be kinda fun, so why not? I bet Naruto-kun would be like to get to know everyone a little better too. Karen said happily. Mika's face fell slightly at the mention of the spiky-haired blonde, but he covered it quickly before Karen noticed. Sure, why not? Shia runs the place like a bar that you will find in the district capitals and inner districts, but it's only open once a week so anyone can come. We take advantage of it when we can. Alright, I'll go tell Naruto-kun. Karen replied. She found the blonde who had been talking to Cho and Isho. Hey Karen-chan, good news, I found where we need to go to get the remaining building supplies. Isho said he will take us there tomorrow. Naruto said happily. Well, we need to go to the district capital to sell the animal hides we collected. That is the only place where you could buy the things you will need to complete that home of yours. Isho added. Karen smiled happily. It would be nice to have a proper place to call home for the first time in as long as she could remember. That's good news. Looks like we won't need to be in your home much longer, Cho. Oh, and Naruto-kun, we were invited to some sort of party tonight. I thought it might be fun. That night Naruto and Karen arrived at the makeshift bar. Naruto still only had winter gear, which Karen could only think would be uncomfortable as the night was rather hot. Karen, on the other hand, was wearing a tight white shirt and light purple jacket with some rather short shorts and thigh-high black stockings, leaving a small amount of skin exposed between them and her shorts. She realized that it was probably not the type of outfit she would pick if she was on date. In truth, it was close to her old ninja outfit, but she was comfortable regardless. The building in which they were walking towards seemed to be the largest in the village. Lights and music gave the place a festive feel. It seemed like most of the village were there already when they entered the bar. Immediately they were called over to where Mika was sitting with a few other older teens in the village. Glad you could make it, Mika said, making room for the pair to sit down. Naruto looked around at what appeared to be a massive hall filled with tables. It seemed like most of the villagers that were there had split up into small groups that were sitting back and drinking animatedly. Thanks for the invite, he said, taking a seat at the opposite side of the table. Don't mention it. You came just in time for the start, Mika replied. Start of what? Karen asked. Monthly drinking contest. The buy-in is $20, winner takes all, Mika said, placing his money on the table. Just like Erosenin and Bachan, even if Erosenin could never win. Naruto thought fondly, remembering the many times that his sensei and adoptive grandmother would go out drinking until the sun would begin to rise. Tsunade would have to go to her office using medical jutsu to sober up, while Jiraiya would usually rest at the bar. At the time it annoyed Naruto, but thinking back he was glad that they had that time together, and it was now a fond memory of two of the most important people in his life. On the plus side, you can't possibly lose, Kurama informed the blonde. What do you mean? I have never been in a drinking contest before, Naruto asked. My presence in your seal means that you will metabolize any alcohol before you could possibly end up so drunk as to lose a drinking contest. Even with my help you could probably only get a little drunk, the fox replied. Then it wouldn't be fair to the others if I compete, Naruto replied. Sorry guys, I'm out. I can't get drunk. I have let's call it a medical condition. It's physically impossible for me to get drunk no matter how much I drink. I'll still drink with you guys if you want, but it would be unfair for me to take your money. The others at the table looked at the spiky-haired blonde like he had grown a second head. Only Karen knew what he was talking about. I would believe him if I were you. Hell, he can't even get sick, she said, deciding to give the other firm warning. Alright, fine, but you still have to drink. I want to see if what you're saying is true. A teen about the same age as Naruto with short black hair said. He now had a look of interest. Both of the new arrivals to their village seemed so different to him, but not in a bad way. Sure, this should at the very least be interesting, Naruto replied with a chuckle. And so the night began and the drinks began to flow. Each hour passed with a different drinking game and happy chatter. It wasn't until about 4 hours later that anyone dropped out. Each time someone backed out, or needed to throw up, it was greeted by a round of half-hearted jabs and cheers at the person that backed out's expense. It was well after midnight before the group was down to the final three, Naruto, Mika, and Karen. However, with Naruto not in the bet, there was a small deal of competitive banter between the two remaining competitors. You're no tea going to win, Mika slurred, clearly feeling the effects of the alcohol. Karen, on the other hand, was in a far better off position. Fat chance, I want that money, and I am prepared to fight for it, she laughed. While clearly drunk herself, she was not slurring her speech like Mika was. Karen had an unfair advantage that even she was not fully aware of. Her ability to control chakra gave her a tolerance to alcohol. It was for this reason that most shinobi drank only the strongest sake. Couple that with the fact that being an Uzumaki, her strong physical energy made it harder for her to get drunk, meaning that it was only ever going to be one outcome, and even thought they were still going. The Kunoichi won their little match. What Eva, it's only a matter of tea time before I win this. I don't even feel remotely drunk, Mika said, attempting to sound sober, and failing badly. Karen chuckled at the drunk teen's declaration. Just give up. Hell, if you back out now, I'll even give you your money back. I will feel bad taking your money. As far Naruto could tell, they were both drunk. It was interesting to watch the slow progression throughout the night of their attitude, and the way they spoke to each other. One by one the two downed more drinks at an ever-increasing rate, until finally another hour later Mika's head hit the table unconscious in a sign of surrender. Looks like you win, Karen-chan, Naruto said casually. Looks like it, hic, she said, finishing with a small hiccup. We should probably go. It's only a few hours before we have to meet Isho and the group heading for the district capital, Naruto suggested. Yeah, alright, just let me grab my winnings. Oh Kami, I just slurred, Karen said, cupping her mouth, realizing just how drunk she was. Karen stood up and almost immediately lost her balance. The world was spinning. As she fell, Naruto swooped quickly to grab her before she hit the ground. Easy there, looks like you lost your footing, he said with a small laugh. And Naruto-kun? Naruto smiled down at the clearly intoxicated Kunoichi. Don't worry, I got you. But it looks like I'm going to need to carry you to bed then. Will you come to bed with me? She asked, giggling at what she thought was well thought out innuendo. Well, we sleep in the same room, so yeah, I will be, he said, clearly missing the hidden message Karen wanted to get across. He quickly readjusted Karen so he was carrying her on his back and left the bar. The early morning air was brisk and held the chill of the mountains. Immediately Karen gripped onto Naruto's back for warmth while Naruto walked slowly back towards Cho's house. Hey Naruto-kun? Yeah? Did you mean what you said today? That everyone should fight for the things that would make them happy? She asked half asleep, leaning forward on her back to look into his eyes. Naruto paused for a second. The feeling of Karen's chest pressing against his back made his heart race while enjoying the feel of her body, even through his thick winter gear. Of course, everyone has the right to be happy. The blonde replied. All right then, I've decided. She declared. Decided what? The blonde asked. I've decided that I will fight for what I want from now on. Nothing's going to stop me, she said, squeezing Naruto tightly, resting her head on Naruto's shoulder. Naruto opened his mouth to reply, but the feel of Karen's breath and the sound of a soft snore stopped him. She's fallen asleep, just like that, he thought fondly. The rest of the short trip went in silence. He made sure to sneak into the house, careful not wake Cho or Karen. Naruto gently rested the kunoichi on her bed, but the sudden movement and loss of his body warmth woke the redhead. Naruto-kun, are you still here? She asked once she readjusted herself with the world still spinning. Yeah, I'm still here. We only have one room, so where else could I go? Naruto replied from his bed. Karen rolled over until she was right next to the blonde. Karen-chan, what are you doing? You're really warm and comfortable. Can we please just stay like this? At least for tonight. Karen pleaded. There it was again. Naruto's chest tightened ever so slightly at the feel of her touch. Alright, you know this does feel nice. Naruto agreed, letting the kunoichi wrap her arms around his chest. I really like you, Naruto-kun, she whispered in her drunken daze. Naruto was a little confused by what she meant, but the small confession felt really good. I like you as well, Karen-chan. Good, because I'm going to fight for you, Karen said softly as she once more faded into unconsciousness. Naruto just smiled down at the kunoichi asleep in his arms, for the first time suspecting that she might actually feel something for him after all. Sleep well, Karen-chan. He stayed awake for a few minutes watching her sleep. She really is beautiful, he thought as he pulled a strand of her hair away from her face. For once Kurama didn't say anything, he simply sighed in acceptance. Naruto fell asleep soon after, but the sun was close to rising, so 3 hours later the blonde reluctantly woke, knowing all too well that he had to go meet up with Isho's group. Luckily, he was used to getting by on a small amount of sleep from missions. He did, however, face a different problem: getting out of bed without waking Karen. It was a mission that he inevitably failed miserably. The moment her torso lost Naruto's warmth, her eyes fluttered open. Naruto-kun? Are you going out to train again? She asked, still half asleep. No, I'm going out with Isho to buy what we need to finish the house. I'm not sure when I'll be back, but you don't need to come. You can stay and rest for the day if you want, Naruto said. That had the effect of bringing her to full attention. I want to come too. I just need to get changed. I'm still in my clothes from last night, so give me a second to get ready, she said, already removing her stockings. Alright, you get changed in here. I was going to get dressed in another room anyway, Naruto replied. You can just stay here, I don't mind, Karen replied before going beet red. I mean, it's just more convenient, and we have already seen each other, you know, when we were on top of the mountain, right? So it's no big deal, she added in a rush, trying to cover for what she had said. Naruto had also turned a shade that matched Karen's hair at her statement. He was spluttering, trying to put together a few words. It's not proper for me to be here while you change. I'm not a pervert, but I don't know if I could help myself, he admitted weakly before grabbing a change of clothes and running from the room. Karen was stunned for a moment, but then beamed with hope. He must at least find me attractive then. I meant what I said last night. I am going to fight for what I want, she declared silently. Meanwhile, Naruto was in another room, his heart beating crazy. Damn it, what's wrong with me? Kurama, are you doing something to my body? He asked. No, it's not me. Unfortunately, this is all your own doing. You went and fell for that red-headed annoyance, just like I warned you not to. You're telling me that I am in love with Karen-chan? He asked in shock. Well, I won't go that far, but it's clear from your reaction that you certainly feel something for her, more than you ever did for that horrible screeching one, or for the timid Hyuga girl. Oh Kami, what am I supposed to do now? Chapter 26. The district capital. Naruto got changed his silence, his mind racing. It's nothing, I just have spent so long alone with Karen-chan that we've become so close. That's all, nothing else. I just need to clear my head. he told himself after pulling on a black and white woolen shirt that was more like a thick jumper than a shirt. Like all the other clothes that he had in his pack, it was designed for the sub-zero temperatures of the mountains, not in the humidity of the forest. Funny, I thought you spent most of your time with a clear head. Kurama chuckled. Are you saying that I'm an idiot? Naruto asked indignantly. What can I say? I call them as I see them. The fool replied calmly. Well, that makes sense. Hey, I am not an idiot. Kurama couldn't help but laugh at the blonde's denseness. Idiot or not, you're going to be late if you don't get a move on, he warned. Oh yeah, I'd better go check to see if Karen-chan has finished getting ready yet. Naruto quickly made for their room. He was about to open the door but stopped himself before turning the handle. Hey Karen-chan, are you ready yet? He asked through the door. Just a second, I'm almost done. She called back. Alright, I'll just wait out here then. We don't have long before Isho's group needs to leave, the blonde said. He wasn't waiting long. Less than 10 seconds later the door opened and Karen walked out. She had her hair pulled back into a ponytail that hid the normally unique way one half of her hair would always end up in a mess while the other stayed perfectly tidy. Naruto had found it quite funny on the few occasions that she had tried to brush her hair. No matter how long she sat there fretting over it, it always ended up in the same state a few minutes later. She was wearing a black t-shirt that clung tightly to her curves, accenting her shapely figure, a short purple skirt that cut off just above the knees, and black stockings that allowed for her to move freely without worrying about exposing more than she was comfortable with. Normally she would wear something baggy over the top, being slightly self-conscious, but today she decided against it. Her decision worked a charm as Naruto blushed lightly at her choice of attire. You look nice, he said far more timidly than she had ever heard him speak in the past. Thank you, Naruto-kun, so do you. Still, I think you may want to buy some new clothes while we are out. I mean, you must be uncomfortable in something so thick. Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. It's been really hot wearing these over the last few days, Naruto replied, indicating his thermal clothing while opening the door out of Cho's home. There was a nice cool breeze blowing in the early morning that came off the mountain. It was enough to tell the two adventurers that the village would become quite cold during the winter. Now, however, the sound of birds merrily chirping in the trees and the sting of the early morning sun gave all the hallmarks of a country town in the throes of an early summer. They found their travel companions, not too far from the village center, heading north. Isho was out the front with Rei and her brother in between. Tenji, you're late, Rei said flatly, clearly annoyed with the blonde not breaking her stride, forcing the whole group to keep moving at the same speed. Yes, sorry about that. We had a late night and I guess I kinda slept in, Naruto admitted, his hand rubbing the back of his neck in embarrassment. I don't care about your excuses. If you say you are going to be somewhere, then make sure you are there, Rei replied sternly. Her eyes were cold as she stared at the blonde teen. Don't be too harsh on them, Rei-chan. They are not that late. Besides, it didn't have any effect on our schedule. The middle-aged man, Tenji said kindly. Glad to have you both along. I had a good talk with Cho about the two of you last night. He really seems to think that you are both something special, he added, not going into any detail about what he and Cho had discussed. You're too soft on everyone, Tenji-senpai. You think they are trustworthy just because they were able to convince your drinking buddy Cho, Rei said disapprovingly. I'll liven up, Rei, you'll live longer, Tenji replied in a carefree manner. I see no evidence of that being the case, Rei replied passively, earning a sweat drop from the elder men in the group coming to a halt to marvel at the apathetic nature of the young woman. Soon after the group left the outskirts of the village, the group began traveling at a sprinter's pace. For Naruto and Karen it was nothing but a light jog, but when they considered that the 4 people of the hunting party had no training in using chakra, it was impressive to say the least, nothing more so than their stamina, able to run at their top speed for hours on end. They passed the large village they saw on their first day in no time at all, passing by the old mercenary hideout that had been burnt down in the time that had passed. Odd, I don't remember burning their hideout down. Although maybe I did. Oh, Kami, what if Kurama was right? Maybe I am an idiot, Naruto thought, ignoring the full-blown bouts of laughter from his internal companion as they passed the charred remains. He didn't have any time to investigate though, as the hunting group began heading east, away from the newly made ruins. The civilians were unable to converse while they ran, so the trip was in almost complete silence. Naruto didn't mind so much. The trip alone was full of interesting sights. It was almost midday when they eventually slowed down. We're almost there. It's just over this next hill, Tenji explained to Naruto in a friendly manner. Naruto and Karen were both curious to see what they would find, and they were not disappointed. The capital was massive, several times the size of Konoha, with thick walls that rose high enough to obscure the sight of the city itself save some of the larger buildings, which towered impressively over the landscape. Wow! Naruto gasped. The district capital. In the past it was a military outpost of the Southern Kingdom, but after the fall of the four monarchs it was repurposed as a place of government for the empire in this sector. It also contains the richest members of the Outer Rims as well as the most dangerous thieves. Chances are the ringleaders of the band of mercenaries you put away are somewhere in the city. Isho explained upon seeing the looks of stunned awe on the faces of the two shinobi. This place is massive. There must be thousands of people inside those walls. Naruto replied. He was already eager to have a look around inside. Tens of thousands. Meaning there are that many people who wouldn't think twice about robbing you blind and leaving you to die. Ray scoffed at the blonde's youthful excitement. Is it really that bad? Karen asked skeptically. Tenji sighed and nodded his head. Sadly it is. Everyone that is sent to this region is placed in the capital. A good number are able to leave and find residence in a smaller village like ours. However, by doing so they give up all hope of moving to the better regions of the empire. Because of the excessive so-called taxes placed on them? The redhead asked sadly. That is part of it. It's mostly because you need items of value to move up in the world, but they are so rare outside of the capital that acquiring enough to move to the next level is just not possible. Then there is the crime. The police force is essentially non-existent apart from those that guard the entrance to the city, and large areas of the city are controlled by rivaling gangs. The gangs supported by groups in wealthier sectors of the empire control larger areas, and attract the wealthier businessmen who can afford more protection payoffs. Isho, the eldest member of the group, explained. So in other words, don't go starting trouble or else things will turn ugly fast. Ray ordered. I'll do my best. Naruto said with a smile. Forgive me if I am not filled with confidence. The young woman sighed before turning to her younger brother who had not made a single noise in the time Naruto had been with them. Come on, Hanji. We should get in there and sell our pelts before it becomes dark, she said, her tone changing from the harshness that she spoke to Naruto with, to one that was kind and gentle as she interacted with her brother. The younger boy nodded animatedly, and the two siblings began to walk down the hill towards the giant gates that bordered the city. They were not welcoming like those that bordered Konoha. Naruto smiled at the fond memory of returning from a mission and seeing Izumo and Kotetsu wake up from a nap and welcome the blonde and his team home. The walls were not made of wood either. On close inspection Naruto could see they were a dark metal that seemed incredibly heavy. It would be an impressive feat to move them even with the aid of chakra. At the gates they were met by a group of heavily muscle-bound men in a poor excuse for a uniform. Each wore tattered red robes with a small silver lion embroidered on their tops. Halt! The tallest and ugliest of the group commanded with a loud booming voice. State your business here? We have products to sell to the stores of the capital. Isho said calmly. If he was intimidated at all by the large man, he didn't show it. The guards paused for a moment, analyzing the group. Very well, remember that once you are inside the city your safety is in your own hands. We are in no way responsible for your protection. The giant-like man said in his booming voice. Isho nodded in agreement, and the group entered the city. Those thugs seemed a little different to the mercenaries I faced the other day, Naruto thought. But he was soon distracted from those thoughts, as he saw the capital. Most of the buildings were almost as tall as the walls, each rising at least 5 stories into the sky. The city itself was incredibly dirty, and covered in graffiti that nobody had ever thought to clean off. Alright, we want to be done here before nightfall. Head to as many stores as you can to find the best deal for our pelts. As for you two, you will want to head to the western quarter of the capital. That is where all the building supplies are sold. Isho explained. Don't be late this time, because we will not wait for you. If you're not back in time, we're leaving. Ray said flatly. Yeah, I get it, don't worry about us. Naruto replied casually. I was hardly worried. Ray scoffed. While Ray-chan was a little harsh, she does have a point. It's too dangerous to be out here at night, so if you're late back you will have to find your own way back to the village. Tenji said, sounding a little sorry he had to be the bearer of bad news. Got it, we will be back here in no time. All we have to do is head to West, right? That will take us to the area that will sell the things we need, right? Naruto questioned. That's the general idea. It shouldn't be hard to find the right place once you are in the western district. Isho explained. Without further word the hunters left, moving at an impressive speed through the village streets. I guess we shouldn't waste any time either, huh? You still need to get something that will be cooler to wear before we leave. Karen suggested. Yeah, let's not waste any time. I have enough sealing scrolls for us to get enough stuff to finish both houses, and heaps of money left over from those mercenary thugs. Naruto said just quietly enough that they couldn't be overheard, much to the relief of the kunoichi. The massive buildings, or rather towers, that littered the city entrance slowly became smaller the further west the pair went, and eventually they found themselves in what more closely resembled farms. However, these were farms on a massive scale, packed in tightly for maximum food production. Thousands of people were working on picking the food, with a few well-armed guards keeping watch. This must be the western sector, but where do we go now? Isho said it would be obvious. Karen questioned. She did not want to get close to the armed guards. She wasn't frightened by any means, more not wanting to risk being put in a position where she or Naruto would have to defend themselves. Naruto looked around, hoping to see any signs of a store that would sell the things that they would need, but no such luck. Maybe it is, and we just haven't seen it yet, he guessed. The teens continued to head towards the western border of the village, constantly scanning for signs of their target, and it wasn't long before they found it. A massive fenced-off area that had a large sign that read Capitol Buildings. Looks like this is the place. The compound was huge, wall to wall of thick metals and wood. Naruto let out a sigh of relief, knowing that he already knew what he needed and how much of each. All they needed to do was find the salesman to help him. Eventually one arrived, a man dressed in far more expensive clothes than he had seen from any of the people he had met so far. He was wearing a dark suit and had his black hair well groomed and combed back. You two seem to be looking for something? The man said with an air of superiority. Yeah, we need the stuff on this list, Naruto said, handing a piece of paper with the necessary items and quantities printed on them. The man nodded once he had finished reading. I believe I can help you with this, he added. The man raised his right arm and clicked his fingers once. A few seconds later 5 men arrived. Unlike the first arrival, these men were wearing simple black shirts and work jeans. Did you want something, Sariko-sama? One of the men, a tall dark-haired man, asked. Yes, I want you all to collect the items on this list and have them delivered to the front gate, the obvious business owner said before turning back to face Naruto. Now if you would follow me, we can discuss a payment plan. Actually, we have money, Naruto said. You do? He asked skeptically. Naruto produced a fistful of notes as evidence. Oh, please forgive me, you must be a visitor to this area. Did you come here with the latest batch of graduates from the military schools? I forgot that they had arrived this week. Again, excuse my ignorance, I am sometimes out of the loop, spending so much time out in the furthest reaches of the Empire. Yeah, we did, Naruto said, not wanting to arouse any more suspicion. He just prayed there was no follow-up question, as he really didn't have a clue what he was talking about. Fantastic. I am always glad when the new recruits arrive for their month of field work. These peasants in the outer rims are as lawless as they come. They all need some discipline, if you asked me, Sariko said with a hint of disgust in his voice. Then why are you here? Karen asked calmly. I work here, yes, but I live in one of the inner sectors. This is one of the best paying jobs in the Empire because you need to stay in such a filthy, dangerous place. A few more years working here and I will be able to move into the real capital, never having to work again. I will be rubbing shoulders with royalty then, the man declared with a cocky smirk. Naruto didn't like this guy's attitude. He looked down on people just because they have less money and lived in a poorer area than he did. Still, he knew he didn't have a choice and reluctantly paid for the supplies to finish his and Karen's new home. Once they assured the owner that they would be able to take care of the delivery without any help, they found the giant pile of material waiting for them by the gate. Wow, there is more here than I thought it would be, Naruto said, a little impressed by the sheer magnitude of what they had just brought. Here, help me seal this stuff away, he added, tossing a sealing scroll over to the kunoichi. The process took a while, separating and sealing everything that they would need. Well, I'm glad that's over. So where to now? Naruto asked. To get you some new clothes, of course, Karen answered. Right, but where do we go to do that? Naruto questioned while placing the sealing scrolls safely away. Well, I am going to say it's not in this section of the city. Let's head back towards the gate and search from there, Karen said, confident in her decision. Seems like as good a place to start as any. Naruto shrugged in agreement. When they returned to the gate, there were a few small groups of people racing around, never staying in one place too long. So where to now? Naruto asked. Maybe we can ask someone? Karen suggested. Somehow I don't think that will be all that easy. Everyone seems really spooked, even the people carrying weapons. This place surely can't be that bad. Right, Naruto replied questioningly. So what, we just wander around in any random direction hoping we get lucky? Karen said sarcastically. Apparently sarcasm was lost on the blonde as he quickly chose a direction and headed towards the center of the capital. Hey, where are you going? Karen called out. I chose a direction, and now I'm going to look this way. Naruto said with a shrug of his shoulders. Karen let out a sigh and followed after him. With any luck I can at least find someone to ask along the way, she thought. Her expectations were not realized. The two shinobi continued to head towards the center of the city, and there were very few people out on the streets. Those that were would sink into the shadows at the sight of another person. Things continued this way until suddenly the giant towers seemed to disappear and the road opened up into a giant open area with market stalls lining the streets, and small shops bordering the edges of the extremely busy market. Well, what do you know, I guess right. Naruto chuckled. Lucky guess. And you don't know if there are any clothing stores around here? Karen replied, a little shocked at the fact that they had found a busy marketplace. Actually, it wasn't all that much of a gamble. Ero-sennin explained once that in civilian villages, the main markets and shopping districts are usually in the middle of the village because it is the easiest place to find and tourists will have to pass by if they are just traveling through the village. I just figured it would be worth a shot to see if this place was designed the same way. Naruto explained. Karen nodded, accepting Naruto's explanation. I guess it makes sense. Get maximum exposure to the stores. So should we take a look around? Yeah, why not? Naruto replied. The market was the largest either shinobi had ever seen. It was built to cater the needs of the entire population of the sector capital, and then some. Most stalls were evidently targeting the poorer customer, but there were a select few that had more expensive objects on display. These higher market stalls were all guarded by guards that Naruto guessed worked for whatever gang owned the stall. He wanted to think that it was hard-working families, but from what he had seen of this world so far, that wasn't going to be the case. Naruto-kun, over here. Karen called, waving the blonde over to where she was standing in front of one of the few buildings in the open market area. I found a place that sells clothes. Naruto looked into the store. It was certainly full of clothing of all forms. The truth was Naruto longed for the armored jacket and pants that Jiraiya had brought for him before returning to Konoha after their trip. He knew that was wishful thinking, but this store seemed as good as any. It's probably run by one of these gangs, you know that, right? He said quietly. Karen nodded. I know it is. But at this point, what choice do you have? She replied. Yeah, I guess you're right. Naruto sighed and he pushed the door open and entered the store. The moment they entered, all eyes were on the pair. Can I help you? The man behind the counter asked a little stiffly. Just looking for some clothes, thanks. Naruto replied in as friendly a tone as he could. Well, you certainly came to the right place. We have outfits for all occasions, and some pretty dresses for the beautiful lady as well. The store clerk said, his eyes lingering over Karen a little too long for Naruto's liking. He was also aware of the glares he was getting from the two guards that were doing a poor job of concealing several large knives. Karen was aware of this as well and had no desire to be in this store any longer than she needed to. Actually, he's the only one who needs new clothes. We can't afford to buy for both of us, she said calmly, trying to ignore their stares. That is such a shame. A fine young woman like yourself would look superb in one of our high-end dresses, perhaps enough to earn the favor of one of this city's higher-class residents, the clerk said with evident hunger in his eyes. Naruto bit back a small possessive growl that threatened to break to the surface, a symptom of being Kurama's Jinchuriki, no doubt. Maybe we should shop somewhere else, Karen-chan. I think one of the more higher-class residents would make better use of our money. The store clerk glared at the blonde but graciously bowed a few seconds later. Excuse my rudeness, please feel free to shop in peace, I got ahead of myself. Naruto nodded back stiffly and began to examine the store. Most things were designed to look fancy, while having several signs of being poorly made. Still, Naruto grabbed a few sets of black heavy-duty trousers that would withstand his daily training regime. Finding a top was harder than he thought it would be. Nothing stood out to him. There's nothing orange. Even if there was, I doubt it would be good enough to pass as ninja armor. He sighed, putting back a light blue button shirt. Because you are looking for something that will not exist here. Buy something that you can wear while you are not training, and ask your toads to make you some proper armor in the future, Kurama suggested. I don't really want to ask Shimaba-chan and Fukusuka-sensei to do anything more for me. They have done enough to help me out already. I do not think that they will mind one bit. You are their representative. Besides, they have made you clothes in the past, your sage robe for one. I guess it can't hurt to ask. Or, I could just pay Gamakichi to go to a ninja supply store in the elemental nations and buy me a bunch of ninja tools for me. Well, that couldn't possibly go wrong. You really think so? Of course not, idiot. You may as well just go tell everyone that you're not really dead at all. I swear you just have no idea about anything except fighting. Fine, I'm sorry, I'll just grab a few t-shirts then so I can get changed out of this jumper. Naruto grabbed a few shirts of different colors and went to pay the store clerk. You don't wish to try these on? he asked in a slightly condescending tone. No thanks, I know my size. But I would like to get changed after I pay for these. Naruto replied. Then go right ahead and feel free to use our changing rooms, the clerk said with a bow. But Naruto noticed the small signal that he sent to the 2 guards by the door. No thanks, I think I'll pass actually. I can stay in these until I get home, the blonde said, collecting his change. No, I insist, go get changed, the store clerk said with more authority. The 2 guards locked the doors and shut the blinds before stalking towards the 2 teens. You 2 must not be from around here, walking into a store like this without paying the toll. Fine, you want more money, I'll pay it, we don't need to fight, Naruto said, openly pulling out more money. I never said anything about money. It's not every day you see someone with such striking features as this young lady. I'll be taking her as pay. The clerk's voice was lost mid-sentence as he felt his breath leave him. He only had enough time to look down and see a bright blue orb crush his ribcage. The 2 guards were at a loss for words, each stuttering at what they had just seen. But they didn't have enough time for anything else as they soon found themselves to be laid out in a similar fashion. Why did you do that? Karen gasped in shock. They wanted to. I would never let them lay a hand on you. I guess I just lost it, Naruto admitted. Karen blushed. She couldn't help herself. Even in a situation like this, having Naruto protect her made the redhead feel so special. Thank you, but I could have handled myself, she said, not wanting to sound like she was a damsel in distress that constantly needed saving. Naruto sighed and nodded. I know, but just the thought of them doing what they were going to do to you, it made my blood boil. I couldn't help myself. The blonde stuttered, not sure how to properly explain himself. Just them or anyone? Karen teased, feeling a little bold. Naruto went a little pink in the face and quickly averted his gaze. Anyone that you don't want to touch you in that way. I will stop them, I promise, he stuttered. The kunoichi leaned in and gave him a quick kiss on the cheek, causing both teens to blush fiercely. Thank you, she whispered before turning her back to him, pretending to be interested in some of the dresses they had on display. Naruto's hand reached up and stopped on the place where he had just been kissed, his heart racing faster than ever before. Yeah? He said dumbly. Karen was still too embarrassed to show her face to the blonde. We should, take what we can. It's no use to them, and then if others from their gang find them, they will think it was a robbery, she said, quickly stripping the cash register and picking out a few nicer items of clothing. But won't that just come back and hurt some of the civilians? Naruto asked a little apprehensively. Naruto-kun, that was on the cards from the moment you hit that pig with your jutsu. Our best option now is to make this look like a robbery performed by one of the rival gangs. With any luck they will take each other out and leave the innocent civilians alone. Naruto sighed, knowing she was right. Okay, grab what you can, I'll look for another way out to make it harder to be identified. Are you a ninja or not? Karen asked with a deadpan. Hey, I was next in line to be Hokage, well after Kakashi-sensei, and I needed to take a Angenin team before I became eligible. But I would have been the next Hokage, believe it, Naruto replied. Well then, super ninja. Why not exit out the front door using a henge? Nobody will be able to detect us, and it will give anyone who asks questions a possible lead that will go nowhere. The kunoichi explained. Why do you always have to make me feel like an idiot? Naruto sighed while giving a small chuckle. Because I need you to protect me. You can't have both, or else I would feel like I'm not needed, Karen replied with a smile and good humor. I guess we make a perfect team then, Naruto added with a small chuckle. Without further discussion, the 2 teens hinged into a middle-aged bald man and a short dark-haired woman around the same age. The only feature that would give either away would be the thin whisker marks on the man's face and crimson eyes that could only belong to Karen. Chapter 27, Lockdown. So that was kind of fun, when I consider who it was and what they wanted to do at least, Naruto said. He and Karen had casually left the store and found their way to an isolated alleyway to safely end their henge. Not only that, we were able to get all the clothes for free, as well as all their money, Karen said, admiring some of the objects she grabbed for herself after Naruto had killed the store clerk and his guards. So I really didn't see myself becoming a glorified burglar, Naruto said, rubbing the back of his neck in embarrassment. Well, it wasn't exactly glorified. We made a mess of the place. Karen chuckled. You know what I mean. When I pictured our life here, I didn't think that we would be stealing from people, even if they deserved it, Naruto replied. Well, not to sound negative, but what did you really expect? We have no talent that has any value here. We're ninja, trained killers, Naruto-kun. A quiet life was never on the cards for us. It's not what shinobi deserve, At least it's not what I deserve. The redhead said solemnly. Everyone deserves a chance to change. I have already told you that. Anyway, we should head back to the gates and wait for the others. Besides, I would rather not be around when the next person enters that shop. The blonde replied. Well, I would have liked to look around a little longer, but I do see your point. We wouldn't want to run into any more trouble. Karen admitted, slightly disappointed she couldn't see anything else. They had some interesting stores, even if there wasn't anything expensive for sale. With little more discussion, the two shinobi walked back towards the gate, not even speaking so as to avoid drawing any unwanted attention to themselves. When they made it back to the gates, they found them to be closed. The guards from before were all inside and all had very serious expressions on their face. Naruto began to walk over to them. It's no use, they're not letting anyone in or out of the city. Naruto turned his head to see Isho and Tenji leaning against a large brick wall. Yo, Tenji added with a friendly wave. What's going on? Why won't they let anyone out? Karen asked. Not sure, all I know is the thugs on the door said the higher-ups ordered it closed until further notice. The middle-aged man said with a shrug. It's rare that there are any higher-ups in this foul city. Those guards are members of the Imperial Army, although they're nothing more than peons that failed the training. If there are higher-ups, then that must mean somebody else is here. Isho said darkly. Didn't that guy at the building supplies store say something about people from the higher sectors being here? Naruto mused frantically, trying to remember exactly what the salesman had told them. Yes, a group of the latest graduates from the military academy. Karen replied. The response was not what the two shinobi had expected. Color instantly faded from the faces of the two older men. This isn't good. We should wait here for Rei and Hanji, then find somewhere to lay low until the gates open back up. Tenji suggested. Where do you suppose that would be? If we just stay out of their way and give them anything they want, then there is nothing to be afraid of. Just don't tell them which village we come from. Isho said flatly. Why is this so bad? Wouldn't having some actual authority to watch over the city be a good thing? Naruto asked. Not at all. Every year the graduates of the Imperial Academy are sent out to the so-called lawless outer sectors to gain some experience. But that's only the half of it. The generals and elite soldiers are all members of the royal family, and they use these little field trips to pick and choose who will join their units. Because of this, those new officers come here and look to make a big name for themselves. Isho explained. Naruto and Karen shared a worried sideways glance at each other. Whatever has them so worked up must be big, really big. Tenji sighed, his body sliding down the wall till he was sitting on the ground. If it's so big, then they would have made an announcement by now. But on the other hand, if it is not, then why are the gates shut tight? I have never seen anything like this before. Isho said, his voice betraying how worried he really was. So how did you go selling your pelts? Karen asked, trying to change the subject. Not bad, we got a decent price for them, but a fat load of good that will do us if we can't leave this place. Isho replied. The small group sat and waited for their final two members. Seconds turned into minutes, which in the end turned into hours. They should have been back by now. Hell, Rei is usually the first one back. Tenji said, a little worried, his eyes gazing from side to side, half expecting the siblings to appear at a moment's notice. Well, it's not quite time for our normal cutoff point for departure, so she still has time. But you're right, Rei is never this late. But she knows the rules. If you're not back at the gate in time, then you are on your own. Isho said darkly, his eyes still focused on the shut gate and the large guards that stood watch. A rather large crowd had gathered around the gate, people from other villages that had come to the capital for the day, now wanting to leave. Every time someone showed up, they were told the same thing. The city is on lockdown until further notice. Nobody can leave. How long do you think this is going to take? Naruto heard one man ask loudly. Until we are ordered otherwise. Now shut up and leave us alone. The guards ordered. Slowly the time passed and still no sign of the siblings. By now even Naruto was getting worried. That's time. If we wanted to be back in the village before midnight, we would have had to leave now. Isho groaned in annoyance. The sun was now setting. The sky appeared as a burnt orange that reflected against the tall buildings. Well, maybe we should move on. This place is getting quite crowded. Tenji mused. What about Rei? Naruto asked. She knows the rules better than anyone. Tenji is right. A large group could either be a blessing or a curse at this point. It really depends on what the so-called higher-ups are looking for. Isho answered. If they were waiting for an answer to that question, they didn't have to wait very long. The large crowd of people separated, clearing the road to reveal a group of 4, 3 of which were no older than 13, while the last member was in his mid-20s with a look of disdain on his face. Each was wearing a bright red uniform, with a different symbol on the left side of their chests. Looks just like a genin team. Naruto and Karen thought in tandem, what is going on here? One of the younger members of the group ordered. The gate guards all bowed to the new arrivals. These are civilians from the other villages in this sector. They appear to be waiting for the gates to be reopened. We should go. Naruto whispered. He was getting a bad vibe from these new arrivals. Go where? Tenji asked, his voice stiff and somewhat awed by the small, well-dressed group. I agree, we should go. Isho said, very slowly moving away from the rest of the gathered group towards a small alleyway. Everyone here is to be detained. The young graduate spoke loudly just as Naruto and their small group slipped out of sight. Nobody even thought of resisting as the guards arrested them and dragged them away. How did you know that would happen? Tenji asked from where they were hiding. I'm not sure, I just had this feeling that something bad would happen if we stayed there. Naruto said with a shrug of the shoulders. Regardless, I think we might have just found out what happened to Rei-chan. Isho sighed. You think they have taken her and her brother? Karen asked. Personally, she didn't care all that much. Rei had been nothing but negative since they had met. Seems like a fair guess. The military seem to be rounding up anyone who is from another village at the very least. Until we know why, we should stay out of sight. Tenji suggested, a little afraid at the prospect of being arrested. Naruto rubbed his chin while taking a seat on the ground. What do you think, Kurama? I think you should take the girl. Karen, and just walk up and over the walls. You owe these people nothing, and getting involved here could have some unwanted side effects. The large kitsune answered lazily. But this might all be my fault to begin with. What if this is all because of those 3 men that I killed? The blonde questioned, feeling extra guilty. If that's the case, then it would be best if you left. Nobody else has done anything wrong, and it's highly doubtful that they will keep everyone locked up. This isn't right. I should at least find out what's going on. What if they are rounding people up for a different reason? They could kill them. Don't be foolish, Naruto. You felt their chakra when they approached those men at the gate. They have been trained to use chakra. If they have a sensor in their group, then we are as good as discovered. Even with your improved control, they will notice your chakra levels if they see you. I can handle myself. The only one that looked like he might be a problem was the older one. I bet he's the sensei. Do you really think that is the only issue here? Actions have consequences. Sure, you could rescue these people today. You are probably even strong enough now to defeat that entire group without the need to use your sage mode or my chakra. But there will be a retaliation. All the humans in this area will suffer because of your actions. It will end with them hunting you down. One man can hope to win a war alone, even if it is you, Naruto. The fox lectured. Alright, I won't do anything. Naruto sighed, his head lowering in defeat. Good, you don't want to pour any more gasoline on this fire. If it really is because of what you have done, then it's possible that they are already looking for someone that can use chakra. The Rasengan leaves a rather unique wound when it kills. It's best to get out of this city, and hope this whole thing goes away in time. I still would like to know what's going on. I promise I won't get involved, but at least let me find out what they are looking for. Kurama let out a sigh, knowing that there was nothing that he could do to stop his container from doing some investigation. Fine, but do yourself a favor and stay out of sight. Yeah, nobody will ever know I was there. Naruto replied. I'll believe it when I see it. So Karen and I can get us out of the city easily enough, but we should wait for the sun to set so we can use the darkness. Naruto said, informing the group. We should use the remaining daylight to discover why they are rounding people up, and if we can find Rei and her brother. Get out of the city? Have you seen the walls? It's impossible. Isho scoffed. Actually, it's quite possible. Karen said, realizing what Naruto's plan was. To emphasize her point, the kunoichi slowly walked a short way up one of the walls of the alleyway they were hiding in. Whoa! Tenji breathed in awe. I have seen others able to do that in the past, all of which were graduates of the Imperial Academy. Who are you people? Isho said with glare directed at the 2 shinobi. We're ninja. Naruto said honestly. Seeing that Naruto had not given much of an explanation, Karen decided to fill in the blanks. We came from over the insurmountable peaks. I believe you call them something different here. Anyway, where we come from, abilities like these are commonplace. Many people know how to use chakra, even civilians to a certain degree. So everyone there can fight like the royal family and the army does? Tenji asked in awe. Maybe they can help us, just like Cho said? Well, not everyone, but many more than I have seen from here. Naruto answered. This world shouldn't be like this at all. I think that a little over 100 years ago someone from our side of the mountains was able to cross it. They must have been strong, because until now we thought we were the first ones. If he was able to use chakra when nobody else could, then he would have been nearly unstoppable. It's no surprise that whoever it was was able to defeat the other countries. Karen elaborated, "You're right, nobody was ever able to so much as lay a finger upon the first emperor. In 5 short years he had completely obliterated all that opposed him." Isho said bitterly, "But what makes you two any better? If you cross the mountains as you claim, then your strength must rival that of the Shodai. Chances are you would have done the same thing as he did." He added, "No, I wouldn't. I came here to ensure peace in our homeland. I did not come seeking to control anything. If I did, why would I have asked to stay in your village?" Naruto replied pleadingly, hoping that the elderly man would believe him. "I know it's not right to judge you by the actions of others. This world is far from perfect, but for someone like you to just show up and be able to take over everything, you can see why we might find it a little hard to trust you," Isho said, deciding to give the 2 teens a chance. "Yeah, but they can also help us. These 2 passed over those cursed mountains as well, so they must be really strong themselves, maybe even strong enough to stand up to members of the royal family." Tenji spoke with optimism. "We didn't come here to fight a war. I know things are bad, but Naruto-kun is by himself. They have an army." Karen reasoned. "What about you? You clearly have the same special skills." Tenji questioned. "I was never much of a fighter, more along the lines of a censor, and I guess a medic if needed." Karen answered honestly. "Censor?" Tenji asked, not having any experience with the term. "Karen-chan has this amazing ability to find people through their chakra signatures. I can do it as well, but nowhere near her level." Naruto explained. "So could you find Rei-chan? It's possible that she has not been taken and is simply lying low somewhere." Isho asked. "Well, yes, I probably could. It may take a while as I am not familiar with her chakra and the fact that there are just so many people here in this city. I can give it a try if you want," Karen said, already closing her eyes. As always, her attention was immediately drawn towards the glowing beacon that was Naruto. His chakra was so strongly in tune with her now that she could probably sense him from the next village over. Once she finally tore her attention away from her blonde companion, she began her search. Never before had she been this immersed in the sheer magnitude of chakra signatures. The closest thing she could compare it to was Konoha, when she was there for the Chunin exams around 4 years ago. This was an entirely different level. She could only guess that there were potentially hundreds of thousands of people living in this city. Naruto and the others waited patiently, not even making a noise that would distract Karen while she searched. It wasn't until about 10 minutes later that she eventually opened her eyes. "Any luck?" Naruto asked hopefully. She had never failed before, although he had very few chances to test that since leaving the elemental nations. I think so," Karen said a little hesitantly. "It's hard to be certain. I believe I felt her and her brother a few miles to the east, but the people that were arrested by the gates have been taken towards the center of the village, in the market." She elaborated. "Well, that's a good thing, isn't it? Doesn't that mean she hasn't been captured?" Naruto said, his hopes rising of getting out of the city without further incident. He still wanted to learn what it was that the army were looking for, already having a small suspicion that he may be the culprit. Just because she hasn't been detained by the military, doesn't mean she isn't being held captive. Isho said darkly. "Those thugs I killed had tried to take Karen-chan. I wonder if they're responsible for this." The blonde Jinchuriki thought. "We won't find out what the situation is if we just stay here. Let's go find out for ourselves. It's risky, but so is staying here. If we move, we stick to the side streets and be wary of anyone you see walking around. If the city is on a lockdown, then you would expect them to have a curfew in place," Isho suggested. "So the basic aim is to stay out of sight and move halfway across one of the largest cities in the empire. Well, that's not difficult at all," Tenji said sarcastically. "It will be even harder as a large group, but only Karen knows the exact location." Isho said humorlessly. He was not in the mood for sarcasm. "I can help guide us. If I use my mind's eye of Kagai, I will be able to sense anyone near us without any problems," Karen said confidently. Tenji seemed a little more at ease with the kunoichi's declaration. "Then let's get started," he said, quickly jumping to his feet. Naruto still felt the urge to investigate the members of the military, but decided to play it safe and ignore them. If he really was the cause of this lockdown, then it would not be smart to go looking for more trouble. The group slowly moved across the village, keeping to dark abandoned roads. On several occasions the group needed to take lengthy detours in order to avoid groups that were patrolling the streets. Because of this, the sun had long since set by the time they came upon their destination. "This is it, they're both in there," Karen said, pointing at a tall tower. Guards stood in front of all the entrances armed with blunt objects. "This isn't much better than being captured by the military." Tenji sighed as he quickly chanced a glance towards their apparent target. "What floor are they on?" This tower is so huge and we don't want to make a scene if we can help it. Naruto asked, his neck tilted up to look as the buildings towered around him, obscuring their view of the night sky, near the top 3 floors down. Karen answered, double-checking just to be sure. Well, problem solved. Karen, you take Isho and Tenji, get out of the city. I am going to sneak in from the top and rescue Rei and Haji. Naruto explained. Karen didn't like the sound of this plan. She didn't want to let him run off on his own, but a look from the blonde told her that it was not up for debate. Naruto created a clone and left it with Karen and the others before taking off up the side of the closest building. What does he think he's doing? Isho asked somewhat curiously. That's not important. What is that we do as Naruto-kun said and get out of the city. He will catch up to us. Karen replied. Well, walking up walls might be well and good for you, but we can't do that. Tenji queried. That's why boss left me behind. We're going to carry you. Naruto's clone declared. The look on the civilians' faces were not ones of confidence in the plan, but as they had no reasonable alternative they had to do as they were told. While the group below began heading towards the giant walls that surrounded the district capital, Naruto had reached the top of the tower. In every direction all that the blonde could see was the tops of other towers leading all of the way to the distant walls. Naruto hadn't noticed this before, but it appeared that every tower was the same height, perfectly symmetrical. Because of this odd yet ordered design, it made the task of crossing the gap and landing on the roof of the other buildings considerably easier. In no time at all he had arrived atop the well-guarded tower where Rei and Haji were being detained. So 3 levels down. I don't suppose there is a door up here, Naruto thought, casting a hopeful glance around the rooftop that like all others was bare. You're going to have to use a window. If you break in with force they will know that someone was up here. Kurama warned. Naruto nodded and slowly approached the edge of the building. Calmly as you like he slipped down 3 levels to arrive at the right level. Unfortunately the windows were all locked. Naruto was not a ninja for nothing, however. He withdrew the single kunai he had saved for himself before leaving the elemental nations, and with trained ease, slipped the lock and opened the window, making sure to ease it shut behind him. Now we have the hard part. Naruto sighed, hiding behind a corner, as 2 guards crossed the hall in front of him. Any word from the military? He heard one of the guards ask. This immediately piqued the blonde's interest. No, I doubt they are going to tell us anything even if they do find something. If the person responsible was really able to use powers like them, then it only makes sense that it would be one of them in the first place. The other guard replied. The first one hummed in agreement. If you ask me, they are just targeting us because we have most of the power in the city. 3 dead in one of our stores is no big deal. The main issue is a whole squad of our men were wiped out in the south, just before the military arrived. Seems a little too convenient if you asked me. Naruto had heard enough. His initial suspicion was right. The military were looking for him. The Rasengan leaves a very unique wound on its victims that cannot be caused by a weapon. The only other explanation would have to be a jutsu. No sense crying over something that can't be changed. All you can do now is hope this all blows over without them digging any further into searching for you. Kurama suggested. Naruto sighed, knowing that the fox was right. Once the guards were gone he slipped into the corridor and began his search, always scanning for more guards. This is taking too long. I'm going to find somewhere quiet and enter Sage Mode. You rely too heavily on your power-ups. You don't need Sage Mode for this. Just relax and search for chakra signatures. Your sensei did not rely on his Sage Mode. He only used it when he had no other option. If you improve your weakest state, then the others will improve along with it. So stop looking for the easy option and improve yourself, the fox lectured. Fine, but I can't tell the difference between one chakra signature and another like this. Naruto huffed as he began searching for chakra signatures. Then that means that you need more practice at it. Predictably his first attempt failed miserably, almost walking into a room full of armed thugs. Unlike the guards outside the tower, they all had katanas and large knives. His next attempt didn't go that much better, almost walking into the same 2 guards that he had hid from when he first entered the building. The third time was the charm. Naruto felt the slight differences in chakra, and while it was by no means perfect, he was at least able to somewhat tell the difference between the guards and those that were being held captive. Typically there was a man standing guard out the front, who did not look like he planned on moving any time soon, but a small setback like that was not enough to put the blonde off. Naruto used a henge to change into one of the guards he had seen walking the halls. Hey, the boss wants to see you, something about the citywide lockdown. He said in a voice that imitated the guard perfectly. It was a gamble, he knew that, but he remembered Tsunade once saying that if you don't buy a ticket you can't win the lottery. Really, what does he want me for? The other guard asked. Not sure. He's really angry. I didn't want to find out just how angry he is. All I was told was to tell you he wanted to see you and take your place on guard until you get back. Naruto lied convincingly. Shit! Well, I'd better get a move on then. Be careful if you go inside, those new recruits we captured are not too happy with their situation. The guard warned before taking off. I bet they're not. Naruto said, waiting for the guard to disappear around a corner before dropping his hinge. Without further delay, he pulled the door open and found a room full of younger teens, 10 in total. His eyes immediately found Ray, who stared back bug-eyed at the blonde's appearance. Yo! What do you say we get you all out of here? Who are you? You're not dressed like the gang members. A younger boy asked, terrified that he might have crossed a line. That's not important right now. If you want to get out of here, then come with me. Naruto said urgently. We are kind of tied up, you fool. I mean, Naruto. Ray said with a little bit of distaste at the blonde's name, but she was also just thankful to see a somewhat friendly face. She rose her arms to show that they were all chained together. Oh right, I'll have you out of that in no time at all. Naruto replied, and true to his word, the blonde easily broke the chains that bound the prisoners. Alright, keep quiet and follow me, there are guards everywhere. He informed the group. How did you do this? Ray whispered as they slowly moved through the hallways, Haji at her side. Came in through a window on this floor, same place we're heading to now. We're getting out of this city before things get any worse. Naruto explained. It was far more difficult returning to the open window. The small group of around 10 consisted of mostly younger teens, with only the odd one or two being older than Naruto. They all seemed to think that talking quietly was the same thing as remaining silent. Because of this, Naruto had to give the guards a wider berth, but eventually they found themselves back in the room with the open window. Are you insane? Look how high up we are. How are we supposed to get out this way? A boy around Naruto's age asked in hushed anger. Don't worry about that, I can get everyone out safely, but before I do, you need to all promise that you will never speak a word about what you are about to see. If you don't, then I can't help you. Naruto replied. He didn't like having to give them an ultimatum, but he didn't want too many people discovering that he could use chakra. Come on, we don't have all day, they are going to find out you're missing soon enough. One by one the small group agreed, and soon there was another 9 copies of Naruto standing in front of them, each with a finger to his lips reminding them to stay quiet. One by one Naruto's clones carried the captives out, jumping over to the next building and heading for the rooftops. Soon it was just Naruto and one clone left to carry Haji and Ray. She seemed rather apprehensive to trust the blonde, especially after what she had just seen. Just who are you? She demanded, not letting her brother take a step towards the 2 identical blondes. I am a friend, Naruto replied. It didn't take a genius to figure out that Ray didn't believe him. Please, you have to trust me. I know that the only people that can use chakra in this world have taken advantage of that fact, but I am not like them. Please give me your hand. I'll take you to Isho and Tenji. They should be outside the city walls by now. He pleaded. Ray was still hesitant, but the sound of loud shouting soon made up her mind for her. Looks like they found out we escaped, she said, accepting Naruto's hand. He pulled her onto his back while his clone did the same with her brother. You drop me, and you're dead, special powers or not, she warned. Naruto just smiled and jumped out of the window, the power easily taking him across the large gap to the other building. Ray instantly clung on with all her might, afraid to look down. It's more fun with your eyes open. Don't tell me you're afraid of heights, Naruto chuckled. Hud up. I'm not afraid of heights, but I am afraid of falling to my death because some idiot drops me. Ray replied, a little embarrassed. I promise I won't drop you, and I never break a promise, believe it? Naruto said as he casually hopped from building to building, heading towards where he knew Karen and the others to be waiting. Chapter 28. Escaping the capital. The city square of the southernmost district capital was normally a busy place thriving with activity. Civilians rushing to acquire whatever rations they may need before the sun would set gave the city a frantic pace. The dangers of this city were well known to those who lived within its walls. Gang-run stores were never safe to anyone save members of their gangs or those who fund them. So when it became clear that one of the more influential gangs had several members killed inside their own store, the city went on full alert. It was only the timing of such an unusual occurrence that prevented the city from dissolving into a street war with the aim of finding those responsible. What had stopped this from coming to pass? It just so happened that the southernmost capital was playing host to 8 members of the Imperial Army, 2 of which were high-ranking officers. The gangs knew that any thought of retaliation or open warfare would see every member of their gangs annihilated. As it stood, the members of the army had taken it upon themselves to investigate the murder-turned-robbery. What they had found troubled them more than anything they had experienced before. "How's the testing going?" a man asked. He stood over 6 foot and had short cut hair, the color of rust that was styled to slick back away from his face. He wore a snow-white uniform with 2 crossed red swords embroidered on his chest over his heart and on either shoulder. The man was addressing 3 teenagers that looked to be around 12 to 13 years old. They each wore red robes holding a separate symbol where the crossed swords were on the older man's uniform. "It's no use, Sensei. Nobody we have questioned could possibly have performed such an attack," a young girl said with a bow, her long raven-colored hair falling around her shoulders as she admitted their failure. "That doesn't mean they didn't do it. Come on, if we can catch this guy, we will be sure to get picked for the best squads once our training has been completed." A boy with the same rust-colored hair as the sensei said eagerly. "You are not wrong with that, but judging from the type of attack that took the lives of those men, it would not be wise for you 3 to fight him head-on. In fact, I am sure if they are as skilled as this, they will have left the city already." The older man explained, a hint of worry etched on his face. "First a fortified camp is all but wiped out, and now this. Both were owned by the same gang as well. Is it a rival gang getting that has learned how to manipulate chakra? Or something more troublesome?" "No way. You're one of the strongest warriors in the Empire. With you here we can take anyone down, and I mean Sensei." The rust-haired boy retorted, fully confident what he said was the truth. The older man chuckled and ruffled the boy's hair. "Maybe I can, but something like this, it's not my call. You learned in the academy what to do when confronted with a crime caused by a chakra user. Hi, we're supposed to immediately contact the member of the royal family that is responsible for ruling over the surrounding districts." The raven-haired girl replied, "Exactly, although, truth is I would rather not. The member of the royal family the southern region of the empire is controlled by is, well, a little odd." The older man spoke, careful not to say anything that may be considered an insult. "Odd's an understatement. She is certifiably insane. Then again, she is 12th in line for the throne, meaning she is one of the strongest people in the world." "Does that mean we have to leave this city?" the third and final member of the group asked. The boy was the shortest of the group, with light brown hair that was well-groomed and eyes that were as green as emeralds. The sensei nodded. He was still dreading the thought of giving this report. "Unfortunately, yes. We need to travel a few districts in to find the princess. She lives in a fortress that will take 2 days to reach." "Good, I can't stand the filth of this place, it sickens me," the well-groomed boy said. "So what? There's always stuff to do out here. I mean, every one of them is guilty of something," the other boy replied. The well-groomed boy scoffed at his teammate's response. "As expected of someone like you. What's that supposed to mean? You want to go, huh? I think black will go well with those green eyes of yours." Before the fight could develop any further, the older man stepped in. "That's enough. I won't have any fighting unless it is an official match. Then again, you have nothing to fight for, so don't bother. I only want to see you 3 fighting for rank or prestige. Meaningless squabbles make us all look unorganized. Now there will be no more discussion. The other team will stay behind while we travel to see the princess." "Ga fine." The boy with the rust-colored hair spat, shoving his fists into his pockets in disappointment. Their sensei nodded his approval and began walking away. "Good, now let's head for the main gate." Meanwhile, Naruto stood atop the walls of the city looking out over the large field. It did not take long to find where Karen and the others were. Naruto had been careful when taking the other prisoners from the city that they did not head in the same direction. Should they ever be caught again, he would rather not let them know the others in his group, or where they came from. "So now what? We're so high up." The slightly older teen in his arms queried, a little scared as she looked down. "We jump, of course," Naruto replied honestly, his azure eyes sparkling in anticipation. Like it or not, he was a shinobi. He loved his job, so this rare chance to feel like a real ninja again was exhilarating for the blonde teen. "You can't be serious." Ri's words were lost in her mouth as Naruto leapt from such an overwhelming height. "Oh fuck, I am going to die. I have been killed by this idiot," she thought, her eyes clenched tightly. Naruto, on the other hand, was completely focused. He knew he had to get this right or they would both die. Time to see if that extra training has been paying off, he mused, sticking out his free hand as the ground was becoming dangerously close. Suddenly their descent smoothed out, and they came to light landing. The pain that Rei had been expecting didn't come. She had braced herself for a very bloody end, but she was still alive. At least that is what seemed to be the case. Regardless, she was afraid to open her eyes on the off chance that the adrenaline had prevented her feeling any pain. It's alright, we're safe on the ground now, you can open your eyes, Naruto said in high spirits, still carrying the frightened young woman. Reluctantly she cracked open an eye, and saw what Naruto has said was the truth. How? She stammered in disbelief. I manipulated the wind to create a sort of pillow to catch us, Naruto said, rubbing the back of his neck. Why don't you sound all that convincing? Ray asked skeptically. That's what happened. It's just that is the first time I have tried to do something like that. Well, that wasn't from about as high as the lowest branch of a tree, the blonde admitted. Ray stared back with a blank look on her face. Naruto couldn't tell if she was angry or impressed. What? It's just what I said, he replied, a little tentative at the harshness in her voice. Ri's blank face slowly turned into a scowl, and soon after she began yelling incoherently at the blonde for endangering her life so recklessly, especially when his clone had casually and slowly walked down the side of the wall with her brother. Well, at least she isn't hitting me, he sighed in defeat. He turned his neck to see Karen and the others waiting in the shade of a large tree. He also noticed that Karen was looking in his direction and did not seem happy. I wonder what that is all about. Could you let me down? I think we're safe now, Ray said, having finally finished her angry rant. Naruto realized that he was indeed still holding the angry teen in his arms like a princess. Oh, sorry, he admitted, letting her feet hit the ground. You looked like you were enjoying yourself, Karen said stiffly as Naruto joined the others. Well, to be honest, I haven't had that much fun in a long time, Naruto said, not understanding the bitterness in his partner's voice. I see, Karen replied a little sadly. She didn't realize that Naruto was talking about how fun it was to act like a real shinobi again rather than carrying Ray. Yo, take a look at this, the city gates are opening, Tenji said in a hushed yell. Naruto paled. Did they see me? Oh Kami, this is bad. Get down, don't let them see us, Isho ordered. Without argument, everyone did as he suggested. They positioned themselves to stay out of sight, but enough so that Naruto could just see the entrance. The gates were only open for a minute, just long enough for 4 people to exit before they slammed shut once more. Oh shit, look at that, it's them. 3 graduates and an elite soldier, Tenji said in shock. Yes, their uniforms are a dead giveaway, Isho added. Naruto didn't say anything, he just watched on in bated breath, half expecting the members of the army to look over and see them hiding. However, they did not seem interested in searching for the blonde's group. Instead, they followed the road, at full speed, not giving a sideways glance in any direction. They're leaving? Ray questioned. Seems that way, but the question is why? Isho replied. Seeing that the uniformed squad was now out of sight, Tenji jumped to his feet. Who cares, but what do you say we get out of here before they come back? I am inclined to agree. We are behind schedule anyway. Isho nodded, slowly getting to his feet. Naruto followed soon after, but his attention was still drawn to the gates that had shut tight behind the leaving group. He was a little concerned but put up no complaints when the rest of the group began to head south across a large field towards the hill they had first set eyes on the capital from. The group didn't stop running until the sun had set, and they had not said a word in that time. In the end, the small group stopped to rest at the edge of a shallow river. Man, we should have been home by now, Tenji sighed, before dunking his head into the water to cool off. Well, judging by the situation we were in, I think the fact that we're running a little late is a fair trade, Ray replied. She was breathing heavily. The stress of the day was starting to catch up to the hunters. Naruto and Karen, however, were sitting a fair way away from the civilians. That was a 4-man squad, and judging from the speed they could move, they were using chakra, Naruto said quietly. Well, we guessed that whatever military was here could use it, Karen reasoned. Yeah, but don't you think it's a little strange that they left the city if they were supposed to be looking for us? The blonde questioned. That's true. My first thought when I saw them leave the city was they would be searching the surrounding areas. But if that was the case, normally they would separate to cover more ground quickly. The 4-man squad is so reminiscent of a shinobi genin team it can't be a coincidence. If that is the case, then perhaps the sensei decided that they would need assistance, Karen reasoned, thinking over the situation. Her voice was rather stiff, because she had not forgotten the seeing Naruto holding on to Ray that afternoon. That's not good, right? Naruto sighed. Well, I don't think it would be smart to come back here for the foreseeable future, but it would be hard for even me to track us to the village. I was able to find you, because I knew what I was looking for. They will have no idea what your chakra is like, so I doubt we are in that much danger, even if they are desperate to find us, Karen reassured the blonde. Maybe you're right, I just don't want to put anyone else in danger, that's all. If they start searching around the village, I will leave and draw them away. That way at least you will be safe. Naruto replied. You can't leave me! Karen exclaimed in a hushed whisper. Naruto leaned back, till he was resting against a tree. I don't want to leave, believe me. But come on, Karen-chan, think about it. If they come looking for us, then I doubt we will survive. I mean, they have an army. No matter how strong I am, eventually the numbers will get us. If you stay behind, at least you will save. Karen pulled her knees into her chest and hugged them. He's right. That man in white had a strong chakra signature. He must have been a jounin. There is no telling how many members of their army are that strong, and if they do come in force to search for us, then eventually even Naruto-kun will be defeated. He is giving me an out in a worst-case scenario. Maybe I should take it. She thought, but immediately couldn't stand the idea. No! I won't let you leave me like that. We're a team now, and I don't want to be abandoned again. I would rather die. She admitted with tears welling in the corner of her eyes. The blonde smiled sadly and pulled her into a hug. I guess you win then. If things do turn out that badly, we will just have to figure something out on the go. It's not really much of a plan, but then again, I have never really been all that great at coming up with well-thought-out plans. That was more Shikamaru's territory. He cooed soothingly in the redhead's ear. Do you promise? Promise me that you won't abandon me like everyone else. The kunoichi demanded. Sure, I promise. Now what do you say we go back and join the others? This talk is far too depressing, Naruto said with a short laugh at the end, trying to raise the redhead's spirits. Karen nodded into Naruto's chest and relaxed slightly. Alright, I am sure they want to move out soon anyway. She sighed, feeling far more relaxed. They sat together for a few moments more before Naruto helped her to her feet. Are you two ready to go? It's only a few more hours until we get home, so there is no need to wait around here any longer. Isho said calmly, yet still with some authority. Yeah, it's getting late. I could use a good night's sleep after today. Ray replied, letting out a soft sigh. Elsewhere, the group that left from the gate was still sprinting through the trees, heading northwest. Can we stop soon, sensei? I am getting tired. The young woman from the group asked through heavy breaths. The man with the rust-colored hair shook his head. I'm sorry, but we can't stop right now. We're near the border of this district, so we will stop at the next town, but only long enough to regain your strength. We can't waste time sitting around. In the military, your mission comes first, nothing else matters. And I mean sensei is right. You know that you won't get picked for one of the better divisions once we earn promotion with that attitude. The rust-haired teen added. The young woman sighed and kept pushing herself harder to keep up with the other members of the group. Much to her dismay, it was not until long after midnight before they came to a stop. A large village. Even in the dark, it was clearly in a better shape than the capital they had been in a few hours earlier. The buildings, while small, were in good condition that gave the village a quaint, peaceful feel. The group's sensei stopped once they entered the border of the town. A guard gave the group a low bow and moved aside to grant them entrance into the village. I guess we will stop here until morning. If we leave when the sun comes up, we should make it to her fortress by the early afternoon tomorrow. That's fine, because I would rather not wake the princess up. There is no telling what she would do. He shivered a little at the thought. Nisama seems really frightened of this princess. None of the members of the royal family I have met have been that scary, although this princess is supposed to be one of the strongest. The teen with the rust-colored hair thought, gazing at the older man. They came to a stop in front of a small tavern, one of the few buildings in the village that still had its lights on. The older man banged loudly on the door to announce themselves. A few minutes later, a middle-aged man appeared at the door. His initial annoyance soon faded once he saw who it was at his door. Oh my, is there something wrong, sir? He questioned. The group's sensei chuckled under his breath. Not at all, so long as you have 2 rooms for us to stay until dawn. Why yes, of course, please come in. The cook has gone home for the night, but there might be some leftovers in the fridge if you are hungry. I can have them sent up to your rooms. The middle-aged man replied. Thank you, please lead the way. The next morning, the sun had not yet risen when Naruto rolled out of his futon, careful not to wake Karen, who had once more discarded her own and joined him in the middle of the night. He smiled softly down at her sleeping form, pulling the covers back up before he left the room. All right, I will quickly go drop off the stuff I'll need to complete the house, then off to the woods to summon Fukusuka-sensei. The blonde decided as he stepped out of Cho's house and into the early morning air. There was a cool breeze off the mountains that gave the morning a chill, but it was nothing that he was not used to. The sun was just starting to rise when Naruto entered the small clearing he had created for training. He instantly sat and began concentrating, summoning even one of the Toad Elders was difficult. Regardless, a minute later he began to run through the hand seals, and in a puff of smoke Fukusaku was standing before him. "Ah, Naruto-chan, why didn't you summon me yesterday for our training?" The small green toad with gray hair and a short goatee to match queried. "Sorry, Fukusaku-sensei, I was going to summon you in the afternoon, but I got held up on our trip for supplies, sorry." The blonde admitted apologetically. "Then we will have to work extra hard today. So hurry up and create some clones, there is no time to waste," Fukusaku ordered. Argument. Naruto did as he was told, creating a large number of clones and sent them off to work. "Good, now while they train in the toad style arts, you and I will spar. No sage mode and do not use the fox's chakra." Naruto nodded and set into his stance. "Ready when you are, Fukusaku-sensei." Fukusaku simply nodded, then kicked off, his legs giving him enormous power and speed. It was only Naruto's instincts that let him escape ahead, but that would have debilitated a normal man. Naruto was no normal man, however, so the worst it would have done would have been to wind him. The toad's small size was both an asset and a hindrance. Because he was so compact, he was able to block most of what Naruto had thrown at him, but at the same time, his reach meant that he was restricted to large movements that made them easier to predict as well as leaving him exposed at times. Naruto was finally starting to read this, and his counters were becoming far more effective. Fukusaku was not one to be bested easily, however. He had almost 1,000 years of experience to call on, so once his young student had gotten to grips with his attack patterns, he decided to mix things up a bit. The small toad leapt high into the air, spinning so his feet would come in contact with a large branch of one of the overhanging trees. Using that to kick off, he rocketed towards the blonde, shaping to catch him with a spinning leg. Naruto readied himself to avoid the attack and launch a counter of his own, and tensed his legs in preparation to jump back at the last second for maximum effectiveness. What he wasn't expecting, however, was for the toad to feint the kick and spat his tongue out, striking Naruto, who could not avoid the whip like muscle. "Expect the unexpected, Naruto-chan. You became so comfortable and let your guard down," the pint-sized toad lectured. Naruto slowly pulled himself to his feet. His face was stained crimson on his left side from a deep cut above his eye. Even without using his fox cloak, it was healing before Fukusaku's eyes. "Well, I can't argue with the point you made," he chuckled. "Naruto-chan's healing is faster than ever. It's faster than it should be. Even with Sage Mode, he wouldn't have healed this fast from that attack. Is it because of his relationship with the fox?" Fukusaku thought, slightly amazed with what he was seeing. "That damn toad, that would have left a scar if I didn't intervene. Get yourself hurt like that again, and I won't boost your healing abilities." Kurama raged. "Yes, sorry Kurama, I'll be more careful." Naruto apologized while avoiding another strike from Fukusaku's tongue. "Damn, what the hell do I do about this? His range is massive." "Yes, but that is also the weakness of his attack. If you can move closer, his attack will be useless. That is how a whip works. The closer you get, the less power the attack has behind it," Kurama explained. Naruto nodded and smirked. "Sounds easy enough. All I have to do is find a way to get closer then." He needed to time everything perfectly. Slipping under yet another attack, he sped forward at top speed. Fukusaku, seeing Naruto's plan, began retracting his tongue, but it was not fast enough. Naruto grabbed it with one hand and yanked the small toad forward before delivering a powerful punch that connected perfectly. Fukusaku was sent flying back, crashing through a large low-lying branch. "Not bad, Naruto-chan. You were able to read my attack perfectly," Fukusaku said, picking him up. He had a small trickle of blood coming from the corner of his mouth, but otherwise seemed to be unharmed. "Reading your opponent's movements without the aid of your clones is vital. The time it takes to predict a feint or an unexpected ability can be the difference between life and death," he lectured, wiping the blood away from his face. "Regardless, I think we should stop here. We are about to have company, and it would be best if she didn't see you covered in your blood." Naruto stopped and scanned for himself, feeling Karen slowly approaching for himself. "Yeah, you're probably right." Naruto only just had enough time to wipe his face clean when Karen arrived, perched high in one of the surrounding trees. "You left before the sun came up again. Do you mind if I join you? I could use some training as well." "That sounds like a good idea to me, Naruto-chan. You can train with Karen-chan. I'll go check on your clones and then head back to Mayabo-cousin. You did good today," Fukusaku said before hopping away. Karen dropped down from her lofty perch. She wore loose-fitting purple sweatpants and a casual gray top that allowed for free movement. Her hair was tied back into a ponytail, so she was more than ready for whatever training they had in mind. "So where do you want to start?" Naruto questioned. She sighed and lowered her head. "To be honest, I don't think I am good enough in any aspect of fighting. So in that case, maybe we should start with a spar? Naruto smiled and nodded his agreement. Alright, I am ready when you are. Karen ran forward and threw a flurry of punches at the blonde, who weaved through them, only blocking what he needed to. After fighting with the Toad Elder, Karen was slow and predictable. She had no real style and was more of a brawler, which, when he thought about it, was similar to his own style. This fact made the young Jinchuriki confident that he could train her, as he had made all the mistakes she was making before. Effortlessly he grabbed one of Karen's arms and tossed her over his shoulder and onto the ground, pinning the kunoichi while remaining careful not to hurt her. He smirked down at her while she glared playfully back. Leaning in, he brought his lips to her ear. Looks like I win, Karen-chan. The taunting feel of his breath on her skin, the closeness of his lips forced a frustrated moan from her lips. Not even Sasuke had made her react in such a way before, but she forced herself to maintain composure. Well, I didn't exactly expect to be able to beat you. This is just mean, she complained. She's so cute when she pouts like that, he thought, unconsciously moving his lips closer to hers. Karen saw this and her heat began to beat out of her chest, closing her eyes in anticipation, but the kiss she was expecting never came. Instead, she suddenly felt his weight shift off her. What happened? Did I do something wrong? She thought in desperation, opening her eyes to search for her partner. Naruto was sitting under a tree, careful not to make eye contact with the kunoichi. I'm sorry, I almost did something I shouldn't. It won't happen again. It's alright, I don't care. In fact, I wanted you to do it, Karen admitted quietly. Naruto cast her a quizzical look, not really believing what he heard. He had many questions at this point, but was all he could manage. Karen picked herself up off the ground and walked over to where Naruto was sitting, kneeling before him and forcing him to look in her eyes. I meant what I said yesterday. I never want you to leave me. I really like you, Naruto-kun, more than anyone before. So when you were about to kiss me, I was happy. No, it was more than just being happy. So don't apologize, because it was something that I have wanted for a while now, she admitted before leaning in and gently placing her lips against his. Naruto's eyes were as wide as saucers as she kissed him, but he felt exhilarated. This was his first kiss, not including one horrendous experience during his final days in the academy. Karen's lips were soft and just a little moist, and he was hesitantly upset when she pulled away before he had even kissed her back. So to rectify that mistake, he pulled her back and returned the favor. This time both parties were fully committed, sending a shiver of ecstasy through both shinobi. They broke apart a few moments later, each panting slightly from adrenaline and the need to catch their breath. Naruto smiled and brushed a stray thread of her silky red locks back, pinning it behind her ear. Well, that was amazing, she finished for him, leaning in once more.